I'm Leticia Davis, and I'm from Exeter. I appreciate the opportunity to testify tonight. I'm here to oppose all three of these bills. I won't get into the technical details of bump stocks and the mechanics of it, but the fact of the matter is no gun got up by itself and killed somebody. Guns are not violent, people are violent, which I'll address on the other two bills. When I walked into the building tonight, I walked through a restricted access. I went through a metal detector, and their police are all there. We know how to defend buildings. We know how to do it. How can we say that our schools should be free of defense? Because that's essentially what we're saying. If we don't have the metal detectors, if we don't have the hardened buildings, and if we don't have the defense there. When I look at the circumstances that I've heard about the shooting in Florida, I look at the whole circumstances as the complete argument for concealed carry and self-defense, because at every single level, the government failed to protect those children. The FBI failed. The police failed. The police didn't go inside. Apparently, some of the windows were hurricane windows, and so that created some difficulty for him shooting out of them. But one thing could have stopped that shooting there, and I guess it was one of the coaches and teachers there, who blocked bullets with his body. And I remember that from several years ago when we were all up here testifying after Sandy Hook, that the principal had blocked bullets with her body. Now, what if that person had had a firearm? They could have stopped the shooting right there. And frankly, I am so angry and outraged that the response to every one of these shootings is, we have to take away more guns, we have to do all these other things that infringe on the rights of law-abiding citizens. But it doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't defend the students, in the schools. They're defenseless. We advertise gun-free zones. Perhaps the reason we haven't had a school shooting in Rhode Island is because concealed carry permit holders are allowed in there right now. And I understand that there are, bills trying to stop that. But maybe that's a reason. Somebody might not want to go there. It's a disincentive for somebody to go and attack in a school. So I think the best thing is defense, and that comes from the individual person. And I believe in our personal freedoms. And if we decide that we can throw due process aside in this case, because this case is special, as we did last year with a domestic violence bill, we can just take the guns away and we'll worry about working it out later. Well, then you're essentially throwing out due process. It doesn't mean anything anymore because, well, this time we're not going to, hold to it. And it's a very slippery slope. In all of this discussion, nobody talks about what a defense guns are. Now, I've testified before this committee before and last year. I'm here and able to testify because somebody protected me with a gun. I know last year, 3 members of this committee testified that they had been protected with a gun. I don't know if it was by themselves or somebody with them. Guns are a defense, and anything that is going to infringe upon that right to defense, I am totally opposed to. On the issue of mental health, I don't know how we get around privacy laws. I don't know how to handle that. Because if somebody hasn't done anything bad, to me it's wrong to take away their property. I have read that in Florida that there is a law that says if you threaten somebody, they can arrest you. And that this kid down in Florida, the shooter, had threatened, but nobody had arrested him. And apparently it's tied in with a whole lot of other things in terms of reporting and funding and grants, and I don't know the details of it. But to me, having a good defense in schools is the first thing. And who has more incentive to protect the children than people who are already in the school? Again, we have the example, police did not go into the school in Florida. They staged outside. They're coming from outside from a relatively safe place into a place of danger. So you have to be pretty courageous to do that. But the people that are already inside, the adults that are in there, they're there already. They have the ultimate incentive to protect and defend themselves and the students, and they ought to be allowed to do that. And added to that, I would say I think that parents who have concealed carry permits ought to be able to go on school grounds with no restraint and at functions, because it's a protection for the students. So I am opposed to all of these bills in principle. I think we can't just throw due process out the window in cases that we want to, and we need to stop going after and banning inanimate objects, unless people want to ban trucks too, because you can kill with trucks, and all sorts of things. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and please oppose these bills.
Thank you, Leticia. Any questions? Representative Roberts.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Are you suggesting that maybe we are addressing the wrong issue here? Because it sounds to me like what you're saying is that we need to address school security. For example, we see at the State House where we are armed at the State House, our security here. Everybody knows they're going to be safe here. It's guaranteed safety. We should probably, I'm thinking personally, we should probably have some kind of security put in for our children. Of course, what that is, I'm not sure exactly yet, but there are options, and I think personally that we should explore other options before we just so readily go and attempt to infringe on people's rights to keep and bear arms. And that's what it sounds like I heard you saying. Is that correct?
Yes, it is, because we obviously do know how to defend buildings and structures.
Yes.
We know how to do that. We're doing it all over the place. So why not in schools? But I think adding the concealed carry, and allowing people, as they can now, to do that in schools is an additional protection.
Yes. Yes, and guns, rather than think of them as a weapon, because of course who really wants to use them as a weapon, but they are, it seems like it would be a great way to shield oneself from harm. So I have to agree with you on that, and I thank you for your testimony.